What is up guys, it's the one to back again with another Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire speculation video, looking again at some more information we got from the Coro reveal, or leak or whatever you want to call it, the other day. We're looking today at the new Kyogre and Groudon forms, which were actually given names. Now, we don't know the official name yet, it's still a bit blurred because obviously the Japanese name has been announced, but Japanese doesn't translate to English exactly all the time. For example, you know, a single word might have several different meanings. They all might be very similar in English, but there might just be one word for it in Japan. So obviously we have to wait till we get the official reveal, possibly in E3, maybe even after this video's gone up. I'm not quite sure because the E3, I'm recording this the day of the Nintendo E3, so we might get told the name in the E3. If it has, then obviously we know already, but at the point now, I don't know the official name, official designation for these forms, so I'm going to refer to them as the prehistoric form, since that was one of the translations from Coro. It was either primal, primeval, or prehistoric. Now, primal, I say no, they're not going to name them primal, because then people will make a big link to Primal Dialga, and I don't think it's related to Primal Dialga at all, or they're related to Primal Dialga, so I don't think they're going to make a link there, or even give people a chance to make a link. They will not call them primal. I'm leaning towards prehistoric just because of some of the theories I have about it. Primeval is similar to primal obviously, but primeval would suggest they're monsters, they're out of control, which could be possible looking at the designs, but I think I'm leaning more towards prehistoric for these names. Now there were some, for some reason, I don't quite know, I don't know if it was a translation error, but there were some people saying they were called the Atom forms, Atom Kyogre, Atom Groudon. And they were atomic forms, and I don't even know where people got that from, because Cerebi, from what I saw, never posted anything about that. I don't know if it was another website mistranslating or anything, but I have no idea what that's about, or whether it's just an alternate name for them, or just something like that, someone lifted from the text. I'm not sure, but I'm completely boycotting that. I don't even know where they came from, so I'm completely ignoring that there. I'm looking at prehistoric forms now. First off, I want to show you the Coro, obviously the thing that came out, the Coro magazine. We can see the whole bit about Groudon and Kyogre here. We have a nice art of them fighting out, actually. Groudon surrounded by rocks rising from the ground, and sort of, you know, Kyogre sort of jumping out the sea sort of thing. Seems to be like firing some sort of water at it as well. And then we can see, you know, some stuff around it. There's some gameplay screenshots we'll look at a bit later on. And at the bottom right there, if I zoom in closer on this slightly, we can see that this is the actual, it's come from a confirmation that they are new forms. You've got the Groudon going an arrow to prehistoric Groudon, and Kyogre with an arrow going to prehistoric Kyogre. So we now can confirm they are new forms. They're not just edited versions of, you know, the original designs. They are new forms. They will, it doesn't say here, well it does say here actually, they will be changing into these forms via a process called Mega Devolution. So, I think it's Mega Devolution, or something along those lines. So, Devolution, which is, straight off the bat, people think it's the opposite of Mega Evolution. So, they're going to get worse? No. Just wait a bit longer, guys. I'll talk to you about that. Actually, now, let's go on to this theory I have now. Okay. So, my theory is, back in the old days, when the Pokemon world was just being created, when Arceus had made stuff, the Earth was around, it was probably being very, you know, it wasn't settled to say, and I think, you know, I think the story goes that Groudon and Kyogre sort of, they battled it out, which is when the Earth was, let's call it the Earth, well, not the Pokemon world, was, you know, there's a huge fight there, so the world was very rampant, stuff like that. So obviously Groudon was making land everywhere, Kyogre was making sea everywhere, sort of thing. Now, you know, don't blame me, don't hate me for saying this, guys, but in the Ruby and Sapphire games and Emerald as well, and also in the anime when we saw them, Groudon and Kyogre didn't really do much. Obviously they made it rain and made it sunny, made it really hot, sort of thing, but there's no showing of a huge, amazing sort of, if you get what I mean, like what would you call it? Like, no huge power of making land or destroying land or whatever. There was no showing of that. So really, how could you imagine these two Pokemon were the ones that made the land and made the sea? It doesn't make a huge amount of huge amount of knowledge sense in my opinion. Whatever. So, my theory, I guess my theory you can call it, is that back in the prehistoric days, when Kyogre and Groudon were making land and stuff, they were in their prehistoric forms, which makes sense, you know, the forms you see here. And obviously we know Rayquaza was around, and Rayquaza was the one to quell them back in the old age, whatever, prehistoric days. and actually made the earth calm and made it sort of, allowed life to then carry on and flourish. So I'm imagining, for all purposes and intents of this, that there is a prehistoric form of Rayquaza too. There might not necessarily be, because it's not integral. It's not integral to this theory here, but it's a possibility. It does work better with it, but it's not needed. So say there was this form of Rayquaza. So let's call it Delta Rayquaza. Or actually it's prehistoric Rayquaza, but you get what I mean there. If we have Omega Groudon, Alpha Kyogre sort of thing, we have Delta Rayquaza. Anyway, so Rayquaza's there, and say Rayquaza then quells them, and we all know about the red orbs and the red orb and the blue orb, and obviously in the games Aqua and Team Aqua are actually trying to find these orbs and give them or use them on Kyogre and Groudon to control them, sort of thing. So the orbs have some sort of power in them. My idea is that Rayquaza came down, went and quelled them, sort of thing, and in doing this created the red and the blue orb, and by doing this it actually removed a lot of Groudon and Kyogre's power and put that into the orb. He couldn't destroy the power of Rayquaza, but he could remove the power from Kyogre and Groudon and put it in the orbs, so that the prehistoric power is contained in those orbs. While also doing this is my thought, is Rayquaza also then had to, unfortunately, because he did this, he had to give up some of his power too, and that went into the Jade Orb, I'm pretty sure it's called, or the Green Orb, or whatever you want to call it. So that's where you get the Jade Orb. It's used in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and if you get both Kyogre and Groudon, you can get Rayquaza in one of the games, you get a Jade Orb for it, so sort of thing along those lines. So I thought I'd include the Jade Orb into this theory. It's not needed, because you could say, if you forgot about the Jade Orb, Rayquaza could just do this anyway. So it's not needed for the extra form for Rayquaza, but it certainly works a bit better. So Rayquaza does that, and he has to sacrifice his power, unfortunately, to do that, and it goes in the Jade Orb, sorry. So here we have, Kyogre, Rayquaza, Groudon, as we know them, with the free orbs, as we sort of know them as well. So we can assume, my idea, my plot speculation for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire is the teams are trying to find the orbs as well. Again, maybe, and in Ruby they get the blue orb, in Sapphire they get the red orb. For some reason, I don't know quite how that works. The fact that Groudon goes with the blue orb and Kyogre goes with the red orb doesn't make sense in my opinion. Obviously, the patterns on their original forms are the sort of the colours, but still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So maybe in the remakes they'll be actually trying to get the proper orb. So Team Magma will trying to get the red orb, Team Aqua will be trying to get the blue orb, sort of thing. So then they'd get the orb, they would use it on Kyogre or Groudon, and then they would activate their prehistoric power, which is much more deadly than we saw in the actual original games, because they didn't have their prehistoric power then, so they couldn't do as much damage, sort of thing. So that's the idea then. And then, the plotline of the game could be you either have to get Rayquaza, they could include Rayquaza in it, because I'm thinking, do you have to get Rayquaza in the original games? I don't think so. I'm not too sure. I can't remember Ruby and Sapphire's plotline off by heart. I know Emerald's fine. Emerald's fine, they both get woken up, sort of thing, then Rayquaza has to go and battle them, but I think in the Ruby and Sapphire, they don't sort of wake up or do anything too bad, sort of things. There's like Sutopolis War, but they could integrate that. Like when Groudon wakes up and does its stuff, Kyogre could also wake up, sort of just to counter it. Sort of, senses that Groudon's, doing shit, whatever. So decides, okay, I've got to handle this, sort of thing. So so then we may have to get Rayquaza, may have to get the Jade Orb, for example, to use Rayquaza to actually then give his power to Rayquaza, so he can actually get rid of the power from the orbs again, sort of thing, along those lines. But then how would the forms work in battle and stuff, Well, my idea would be either you give the red orb and the blue orb to Groudon and Kyogre respectively, and that's their hold item, and then that turns them, sort of like a hold item for Shaman, for example. When you get the Gracidia flower, it turns into a sky form. So that's a possibility for the orbs. You give them the orb and they turn into this new form. Another possibility, sort of thing, is you use the orb on it, sort of like how you fuse Kyurem and, for example, Zekrom. You use the splicers on them, and you use them there and it gives them the power, sort of puts them together, and then you have to de-use the splices on the two Pokemon to separate them. So the orbs could then be a key item, for example, or maybe just a normal item, and you have to use it on Kyogre or Groudon, and when you do, it might like dim out, and you can use it again to take the power back, sort of thing. So, you know, just use it to change outside of battle rather than being a hold item, so you can still use whatever else, whatever item you want to use of it, sort of thing. I think that would work quite well in my opinion. Also, I need to talk about the typings for the new forms. See, a lot of people want water electric type for Groudon, for Kyogre rather, and a lot of people want a ground fire type for Groudon. But in my opinion, I think they're just going to stay their base types. Because if you gave Groudon the fire type as well, it's going to be 4 times weak to water. And if you gave Kyogre the electric type, yeah, fair enough. That works because then it's weak to Groudon's earthquakes and sort of thing. But, you know, is it really going to be fair? Overall, are they really going to bother changing it? I mean, yeah, Kyogre looks like it might be an electric type as well because of its markings and such, and Groudon could be a fire type because it's orange, fiery, lava-like markings over its body. It could be, you know, could be there, but I don't know. I'm not sure really. I don't know what's going to be happening with the typings there, in all honesty. But guys, that's you know, that's my idea for the plot line. You know, they use the orb on them, turns into its prehistoric form, starts to do damage. You have to get Rayquaza maybe, or maybe you just have to use a tool to get rid of to take the orb power out. Maybe you have to get a key item to do that, like I've just mentioned, sort of thing. Or maybe I don't know, guys, you know, you get what I mean there. The final thing we need to look at in this speculation video is these new moves, the in-game screenshots. They are indeed new moves. Look at the move Groudon is using on the left there, look at the move Kyogre is using on the right. We have never seen those moves before in all of history of Pokemon. Nothing has ever looked like that. And we can also see the two forms in battle, obviously, but you know, that's not as prominent. As look at them, guys. And then also, going back to the original Korokoro scan we had, you can actually see them using those moves. You got Groudon with the ground coming up, and then you got Kyogre shooting like fire-like water-like things rather, and sort of, you know. And then if you look at the in-game shot for Kyogre, you can see it shooting things just like it is in the Korokoro scan. Same with Groudon with its things. What would these moves be? I'm guessing Groudon's move would be a ground type, Kyogre's would be a water type. That only makes sense. Groudon's move, I'm guessing it might be called something like Land Create and I don't know, Wave Rush, something like that. I'm making stuff up in my head, guys, but I think when you turn them into the form, they would get a move replaced with this signature move, I'm guessing we're calling it, and this would be a really powerful, probably base 120 move, I'm guessing, getting both their stabs, just to represent the power of prehistoric Groudon and prehistoric Kyogre. So guys, please let me know what you think about this speculation in the comment section below. Do you like my plotline idea for the games? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Let me know. What do you think of the new moves for Kyogre and Groudon? What do you think they'll be called? Any ideas there? What else? What do you think they're going to play a certain role in anything? How do you think we're going to get the moves? Are they just going to learn them by level up, or what? Please let me know down in the comment section. If you have any other ideas on how prehistoric Kyogre and Groudon might be used in the games, please let me know as well. I'm interested to see what you guys think. Apart from that, this is it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Smash that like button if you haven't already, and I'll be seeing you next time, guys. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.